We got the Zios in the chat already, so
welcome
it's always...
Zios, welcome Zios. We're excited to have you here.
Maybe they'll actually learn something this time, but
Yes,
I doubt
please.
it.
Maybe we can wake up your humanity, maybe. One Zio at a time.
Maybe. That does not seem like a fun task.
No.
No. So, anyways, how are you feeling about, I know that we briefly talked about what's going on right now, but how are you feeling about the situation currently?
A lot of mixed feelings because there was a lot of mass destruction of North Gaza today. A lot of unalived children, a lot of massacre happening, but also in Lebanon that we know what the Zions are doing right now. We just heard tonight that they are heading to Lebanon for ground invasion, and that's always something that it's very heartbreaking.
Yeah, very heartbreaking. So I know when you went, you were mostly in northern and you were actually all over Gaza, correct?
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about how you moved and how that happened. Or actually, let's back up and let's start about how you first got to Gaza.
So first, I started going to Gaza about a year ago with PCRF, Palestinian Children's Relief Fund, but this time I went with Rahma. And anyway, so the reason we got there was I just wanted to serve. I saw the devastation, the murder, the slaughter.
Okay.
Yep.
And so how long was your process to actually getting to go as a medical aid worker?
Oh, since January, I've been trying to get in. But I didn't go in until the end of July.
End of July.
Yeah.
And so you were there for a total...
Mid-July.
Mid-July?
Yeah.
And you were there for a total of 6 weeks?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And was it what you expected?
No. Worse than what I have seen on social media.
Definitely worse.
Yeah.
What have you, I guess, this might be a little bit ahead of the question, but what are some things that you've done since you've gotten back to readjust?
It's very hard to readjust in this coming home to this culture where some people are opposing our causes, what we are trying to fight for and what we want to do for Palestine and Gaza especially. But it's been very difficult to adjust because I do know that my work was probably pointless because the people, if we were able to save some, I'm sure that some of them are going to die because of lack of antibiotics. Sending children that have been simply amputated to go out in the street with no antibiotics to prevent an infection as a prophylaxis is very difficult, right? And Gaza is gone. It's destroyed. Raw seways all over the place. Buildings, schools, churches, mosques, everything in rubble. So I'm just really conflicted why I'm here. I should go back.
Okay. We'll talk about more of that a little bit later. So let's start with when you first went to Gaza. How was the process getting in? What kind of things did you see as you were trying to get into Gaza? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So you go through the application process. It's a very difficult process. Multiple organizations will ask you to provide a lot of information. But going into Gaza, once you're approved by the KOGAT, you go through, that's an Israeli arm of, that helps with people going into Gaza and West Bank. But once you get in, you go through Amman through King Hussein at the Jordanian side, and then bridge, and then you go into Karim Abu Salem, and then you go into Gaza. Now, once you cross the Karim Abu Salem to go into Gaza, your world changes. Nothing is never the same again because the level of destruction that you see on your way to Gaza is devastating. there is nothing left standing, nothing. So it really just breaks your heart that another human being can do this to another human being. That's the problem.
I know that when we were talking before, you had told me about like the process, like it is to actually get in. And so can you talk a little bit more about like the procedures and the checks they make you go through, like just to like be able to step foot onto the Gaza soil?
Yes. So you get into the checkpoints, like into the King Hussein Bridge crossing into West Bank. It's a very long process. First of all, you're not allowed to bring money more than $3,000 into Gaza. So they count your money. The Israeli will make sure that you're not bringing anything more than that. Food items, you're supposed to bring so much. It's very limited amount of food you can bring in for yourself. You're not supposed to bring any medication unless it's for personal use. They check everything. The Israelis will check everything in your bag. And then some people will be returned because they had an extra $200. You go back to Amman.
So they won't even let you in. They'll make you go back to Amman if you brought too much money.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're not going. You are not going anywhere. You are done. So that and then you go into Karim Abu Salim. It's the same process. You go through. They don't check your bags as much at the Karim Abu Salim, but just the physical part of going in. We had to walk about 3 football fields into crossing into Gaza through these many gates that are automatic gates, and they're just they see you everywhere, and when I was crossing, it was kind of racist comments that were made. As I'm crossing, I'm carrying my backpack, pushing 2 big bags on 110 degrees temperature, and I heard from the cameras. There are cameras everywhere that's watching you, and somebody was saying some pretty racist stuff through the cameras. They tell me move, stop. I mean, 4th time, 5th time, I said I'm just gonna go. If they're gonna shoot me, they're gonna shoot me anyway. So I went. I'm not stopping anymore because what I was hearing from the cameras because the cameras are all over the place. It was pretty nasty stuff, but yeah.
Okay. I know that we talked about before, you were trying to bring in intubation kits or medical equipment with you before you went into Gaza, and you weren't able to bring that in. Can you explain that like a little bit more for us?
Yeah, because the when you're crossing into Gaza, they don't allow you to bring anything because I guess those are the rules. So
even to bring in life-saving medical equipment, they would not allow?
No. Forget. And I brought Tylenol and ibuprofen. I brought a couple of bottles. I said I use them for my pain, but they were also arguing with me that, why do you need all of this? Because I have a lot of pain, a lot of back pain. So, yeah.
So did they allow that through, or did they take?
They allowed that through because it's only 2 bottles, but definitely, I was not going to use all the whole bottle. But I mean, how do I know how many pills should I take? I cannot anticipate the pain I'm going to have on my back tomorrow or the day after. I don't know. I just grab bottles, and that was my argument. I'm like, how do I know how many pills I'm going to take a day? Every day is different.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I'm asking about the intubation kits is because it comes into play later when we're talking about some other things. How many I know you said it was you, and how many other doctors that went?
We're 3 other doctors. We have this little intubation kits. They're called stylets. We couldn't bring those, but because we know that Gaza didn't have any.
Yes.
Right. We had to bring like those flashlights because we knew that if the electricity goes off, we needed it to work in the ER or in the ICU, and they said no, you cannot. The Israelis said no, you cannot go. There's too many of this, so we left some behind. So it's those things that they make it so difficult for you to a point that I think they don't want you to go back. That's the problem. So make the process difficult so that it discourages you to go back.
Okay. So, can you talk a little bit about your first day and what happened during your first day when you arrived in Gaza, like your first time seeing everything, like what that was like for you, and then maybe we'll continue from there a little bit more.
It was a shock because half an hour, I think, after we arrived, there was mass explosion.
Okay.
A lot of mass casualties coming in. We didn't even know what was going on. We ran into the ER. There was a lot of children with missing limbs, missing brain matter. We just got into work.
So that has to be really hard when you're first arriving and it's already starting to happen.
Because as you're coming in, you can hear strikes. You can hear, big booms like that. So you just know somebody is dying somewhere.
And which place did you go to first? Which hospital did you
We went to Nasser Hospital first, which is in the south. And then we stayed there for a couple of days, and then we went north to Indonesian hospital with the other 4 doctors, 3 doctors, myself, 4. That is another story, how to get to the north.
We're coming, right?
Yes.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. You guys wait up. You will hear the stuff.
So when you first arrived and you started working pretty much straight away, I know we talked about that in pretty good detail. I was hoping that you could talk about your interactions with the patients that were coming through, anything that very significant that sparks your brain.
What sparked my brain was the first child that came through with her brain matter out, with massive bleed going on. And we're trying to help her to stop the bleed. In my heart, I'm saying to myself, I am so sorry because I paid for those bombs. So that was a first wake-up call. I thought I was a hypocrite. What am I doing here? I'm trying to help you, but I just paid for those bombs too.
And so you mentioned her name. Do you remember the little girl's name that you...
Her name was Hadil.
Hadil?
Yeah.
And
She was 2.
she was 2. Can you talk about that experience a little bit more? Like what happened? I know you talked about her father being there.
Yes. Her father was in the next trauma bay. And he wasn't even flinching. He was just looking. He was just looking and to make sure that this child is okay. And it was difficult to see that because when you know as a healthcare provider, when you know it's over, it's over. And looking at, without saying to that parent that, I'm sorry, there's nothing else we can do. Your child is unalived.
So the child had a massive brain trauma.
Yes.
Correct? That wasn't going to get any better. And you knew at some point that was the case. There was nothing more that you could do to save the child. All while the father, who was injured.
Correct.
What type of injuries did he have as well?
He had his lower extremities completely shattered. Nothing left.
And he was also, you mentioned that he also had
he had a chest wound, and, injury as well, and a massive wound here on his shoulder as well. That was from shrapnel injury. That was very hard to see because he wasn't even worried about himself. He was worried about his child next trauma bay. You asked a question about how I felt. It's something that you never want to look at a parent and tell them that your little child's time is over. It's something, it's the look you see from that parent and they're looking at you have you given up? Please don't give up. Please don't give up on my child. But, and secondly, we didn't even have enough equipment. We didn't even have supplies like gauzes to stop the bleed.
I know you mentioned you were holding her.
Holding the brain matter in my hand, and it's, the blood is dripping all the way down, and I'm thinking, Gaza is where gauze was discovered in medical, right? But they don't even have the thing they discovered. Right? So to save the life of their children, it was saturated in my hand. And I'm just holding the brain. It was right here. Trying to push as much as I can to stop it. Another doctor was trying to start an intubation, to start, I don't think that child was ever, paralyzed, because we need some paralysis medication. I'm not sure, to paralyze the patient so that they can go to start the tubes in. But it was the most horrific intubation I've ever seen.
Yeah, you talked about a couple intubations that were pretty hard. And so I'll come to that one in just a moment. But yeah, I can't even imagine seeing, not only trying to help the child and then also Hadil, and then seeing her father, who was in a bad state himself. Did the father make it?
They sent him to the ICU. May have made it that moment, but I don't think he would have made it after several days in the ICU. There's no antibiotics.
Yeah.
With that kind of injury, pulling people from inside a rubble, completely contaminated. I can never forget the smell of gunpowder, dust, blood, and burning flesh. It still lingers in my nose as we speak. So with pulling somebody from the rubble, completely contaminated from anything in the dust and sewer, bring them in. Some people have been brought in the donkey cart. What are the chances of them surviving?
So I want to talk about that a little bit more, because I think a lot of people who have seen some of the things that have happened, they think like after they've been treated medically and then they're cleared for whatever reason, say it's something small versus something more substantial. What is that process like? Like, you've talked about that there's no medical supplies, there's no clean medical supplies. So what does that process look for someone, say they had their arm taken off or something like that? What does that process look like for healing, and how can they even heal with all of the things that you're going to talk about?
I have seen maggots falling off somebody's wound.
And that's common.
That's common. Because after the leg or the arm, whatever part of the extremity was removed, they were sent back home into the tent, or if they stayed in the hallways of the hospital, there is no prophylaxis antibiotics or anything like that, or clean supplies to clean the wound. So I saw maggots falling off the wound. Even the water you're going to use to clean, there's no sterile. You're supposed to really clean that really in a very sterile environment. Even amputation itself, it's supposed to be a very sterile field. Mm-hmm. But when you see somebody is being amputated on the floor of an ER, the floor of the ER is already bloody and dusty, and because everybody is coming in, what are the likelihood of survival? I don't know. It's very difficult.
So even if a patient comes in, you're able to treat them, get them to a state of stableness, the likelihood of them still passing away is still extremely high because of the no medical treatments, the no antibiotics, the nothing clean.
No pain medication. Yes, unfortunately, that's the truth. But we are not gods.
Yes.
We hope that somebody will pull it off, but the likelihood of an infection and a sepsis is very high.
And can you tell, just for people who don't know, a little bit more about sepsis and what it does?
So, sepsis is basically an infection in your bloodstream. It's like your body is killing itself from inside out.
Okay.
That's as simple as it can get. And here in the United States, when you're working with a patient and you see some of the signs and symptoms of sepsis, it's a very, very fast moving train. Everybody gets informed over the head, the loudspeakers on the hospital. Sepsis alert, sepsis alert. Everybody will be in your room. Everyone will be there. Those people who do that kind of work. They will be there, labs drawn, IV antibiotics started, fluid started, a lot of things that will happen very quick, very fast. But in Gaza, it's nothing.
So if you get sepsis, you're definitely
You're
going
dead.
to, you're going to die.
Yeah, you're going to be unalive.
So I know that we talked about, your first few moments in Gaza, or with the hospital there. You also told me about on your first day that you were soaked in what? Can you talk to us a little bit more about that? Because I don't think people really understand like how much was going on for you to be that.
The day we arrived, there was mass casualties, non-stop. Over and over again and again and again and again. We didn't even have time you don't have time to go change. Because when you see those little, most of the taxis, the cars coming in, ambulance are half destroyed. You run in, you hear it, you run outside, you grab whoever you can grab. Mm-hmm. And you just grab them with your hands because there's not enough carts to bring them in. Of course, you're just going to be soaked with blood to your insides, your inside clothing.
And so how long do you think you were at the hospital that first day? Like how many hours do you think you worked before you took a rest or left?
We worked, I think, all day. All day. I think around 10 p.m. we kind of slowed down. We went up in our rooms. We stayed, and I think the next morning at 2 a.m. we hear again mass casualties. Run. We run. We go down to the ER. So it's constant. It's constant, non-stop mass casualties.
So you were also, we had also spoke about before, and I don't remember where you said you were, but you had been talking about someone who was treated, a girl had come in and she had some type of allergic reaction and ended up not making it. But do you remember that story? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it was a 27-year-old girl, young lady. And she came in because she had an anaphylaxis reaction. She may have eaten something from the canned food that were distributed to them.
She was injured before though, that right?
Yeah, she was injured before. Yeah, she was injured on her spinal cord. But she had left the hospital. She survived miraculously. But she came back with, you know what killed her? The Zionists didn't kill her with their bombs. Donated food killed her. Because when she came in, we didn't have supply, because her airway was so small that it was so compromised that the doctor couldn't get it in. Intubation. And we needed to poke her, to cut her throat. But we didn't have the supply. We're running out to the ER. Where are the supplies? Where we can do to put something called tracheostomy. We didn't even have time equipment to do a tracheostomy, so that we can protect her airway, so she can breathe and put the tubes in. And she died. She unalived. Just because we did not have supplies to start a tracheostomy.
So before we continue moving with this piece, I just want to kind of break it up a little bit because we're getting a little bit heavier on the topics. I want you just to tell us a little bit about some of your happy moments in Gaza, and I know you talk about the kids a lot. So tell us a little bit about some happy times that you had there.
Everyone, listen. After this genocide is over, after the Palestine is free, if you ever get a chance, please go to Palestine. The love, the friendship, the generosity of the Palestinian people is nothing I have ever seen in my life. Please go, get some good food. We did not have food most of the time. The Palestinian people have not had food for months, but they brought for us whatever little they had. They shared the food with us. And they brought, sometimes they bring bread that they just got donated to them. And I say, but I can't eat. I have plenty of bread at home. They say, no, brother, you go eat. You have to eat. My wife made this for you. My wife made this, you have to eat this food. So those are happy moments. They told us don't leave out the hospital. I snack out a lot. I went to see to the tents and a little school in front of the hospital that was partly destroyed. I brought some chocolates. I gave the kids chocolate. So they always knew. Every child in the neighborhood knew Willy the chocolate guy.
That's what they called you? Yeah. Willy the chocolate guy?
The chocolate guy, yeah. Chocolate! And another doctor, Dr. Ayaz, he was known as, he had stickers, he had multiple stickers. One time, there was so many kids surrounded him, like 50 kids around him. He was just giving them stickers until hospital security came and get him out. Say,
you gotta come back inside.
You get back inside. You don't give. They told him you don't give stickers anymore by yourself because we couldn't find you. You're in the middle of kids.
Yeah.
It was amazing. He tells that story better than I did. So the generosity of the Palestinian people, the children. I felt really bad. One little kid that they were all around me, and we were laughing and they were taking pictures. He had a little plastic bag that he went to fetch water. He had his water, but he's giving me high five. And for whatever reason, somebody pushed him from back, shoved him under the bed. He dropped his water.
Oh.
I was like, bro, I'm sorry, man. Your water that you worked so hard to get. I feel really bad for that, but he laughed. He's like, we'll get water, inshallah.
Oh.
That's all he says. Inshallah, we'll get water later. That's the faith. Another thing that I want to talk about is the faith of the Palestinian people. Even this child had nothing. The little water that we dropped, he's like, inshallah, we'll get it. No one beats that. Nobody. So those were my happy moments.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I know you talked about the kids were your favorite, and I know that there's some family that you're trying to help even from the States here. How is that going? Have you made any progress with that yet?
No. Yes. I mean, it's difficult because we work with. When I was in Gaza, a friend of mine who is also the founder of Heal Palestine said, "Hey, if you get any children there that are injured, please, get information and send them to us. We'll see if we can evacuate them." So we've been trying to process that evacuation procedures, but it's been very difficult.
Mm.
But again, the Israel government is stopping most of that. Every time there is something, every week there is something, they will stop it.
Of course there is.
So nobody gets out, but a few children will come in. Most of them will not come in, but we are trying. Yes.
Okay. So there was another time that you were telling me about where the UN, I believe it was UN, there was 2 UN vehicles and there was a flat. Can you tell us a little bit about that situation? I think you were in a separate car, but...
Yeah, we were in our separate cars trying to go north Gaza to Indonesian hospital. So there was this checkpoint where the Israeli army was there checking us out with their drones all over, just zooming around your face. And then we arrived a little later, but there was two UN vehicles. One of them had flat tire, and the UN driver asked, "Can we change our tires here?" The commander of that checkpoint says no, and don't stop. You cannot change your tire here, but also do not stop anywhere to change your tire until you arrive where you're going, because if you stop, you will be bombed.
Even if they know that you are there because you
You
have a
will
flat
be
tire.
bombed.
So they had to drive with a flat
tire. And then the difficulty with driving with a flat tire in Gaza was that the Israeli army, when they were in the area, because you can hear sometimes bombing still, they turned earth inside out, completely destroyed. So it's a lot of dust and sand on the road that used to be the road. So the tires just sink in to the dust, into the dirt. So sometimes the car is not moving, just rotating. So if they see you in their drones or their quadcopters, those are the deadliest ones. I don't even care about the drones. The quadcopters, those are the ones with armed to the teeth. Those ones are the ones who will kill you. They will bomb you. They will bomb you. I will tell you a story about our way back from North Gaza to the south, what the Israeli soldier told us about that.
Okay. So I know I have never seen the drones. So can you talk about like how big they are, like how they move? Because I think a lot of us like only see this stuff in like, special edited movies or something like that. So can you talk about like how big they are, how they fly around, like that kind of thing?
There's two types. The two types are all over. One of them is always over Gaza. They call the local people in Gaza, they call them Zanana.
Zanana.
It's this annoying sound.
And we hear it all the time whenever
you see videos online. Yes, that is the Zanana. That one is just annoying. And they do it on purpose so that they can annoy the Gazans, so that to make their lives miserable. So those ones are all over every day, every hour. Even at night, we wake up, you can see them through a window. It's very annoying. But the most deadly ones are the quadcopters. Whenever you see a child or anyone going online on social media with a missing head, most likely they have been unalived by a quadcopter.
So I know that we've talked about this before, and so when they are using these quadcopters, they aim for specific areas.
Yes.
Right?
It's usually the shot is usually going to unalive you. It's either in the head, on the chest, or completely maim you on lower extremities. We saw a lot of shots in the groin area, where like your femoral artery is. So when you got shot there, you will definitely bleed to death.
Yeah. It's a hard one for me. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll come back. So when you arrived, it was the four of you together, right?
Correct.
And you had a driver with you as well?
Correct.
So how many days did you spend was it Al-Shifa Hospital?
No, we were, Shifa is
I'm sorry,
gone.
that was the wrong one.
Yeah, Shifa is gone.
Yes.
I have videos you can share with your viewers of Shifa Hospital. We were at Indonesian Hospital.
Indonesian Hospital, yes. Can you, before we go back to Indonesian Hospital, can you tell us about your drive past Al-Shifa Hospital, because that was pretty telling, the situation there and all that kind of stuff, because we all know, most of us should know what happened at Al-Shifa Hospital, but can you explain that scene when you drove past?
So I have been to Shifa before, prior to this trip. The level of destruction of Shifa Hospital is nothing I've ever seen. The hospital is completely wiped out. There is no walls. There is nothing left. And this was the largest hospital in North Gaza. and they had CT scans, MRIs. They had all these images that machines that to take images in the north for patients. In the north right now, there is no imaging at all. If you want to find a patient to know something about them, you cannot get an X-ray. You cannot get there's an X-ray one, but you cannot get a CT scan, no MRI, nothing. There's only one CT scan in whole of Gaza. It's at Nasser Hospital. Only one. 2.some million people. One CT scan. I saw some CT scans at Indonesian hospital in the area that Israeli army had destroyed. They burned down CT scans and MRIs. Tell me about that. That why would you burn an MRI? What does MRI do to you? Why would you burn a CT scan? For what? Why would you burn an X-ray machine? Why would you burn an EKG machine that checks EKGs, that checks your heart, and in front of Nasser Hospital, I forgot to mention, there is a dialysis center. Patients with kidney failure. The whole house, the whole building, the Israeli army was there. Before they left, they burned it down. They burned the whole down. All the equipment's in the building, all burned. So now, not only patients are being unalived by the mass bombings, mm-hmm. but they're also being unalived by other diseases like kidney failure, because there's no dialysis. Patient died. I saw a patient that looked yellow, like a lot of patients with that. Well, this patient looked dark yellow to a point where that means that their kidneys are not completely functioning at all. They look so, you touch them, they're sticky. The person is sticky because the toxins in the body are not going anywhere. So a lot of people are being unalived by other diseases that can be prevented.
So, is there anything that you wanted to say before I continue? No. Okay.
Good, yeah.
And I know that we've talked a lot about the generosity of the Palestinian people, but I really want to touch on that because, I know from the people that I've interacted with that they're the most kind and very generous people, but I have not had the pleasure of meeting very many in person. And so, and I know that you talked about, they fed you, they clothed you, they took care of you. Is there anything else you want to share with that little piece? Because you've told me so many things, and I just feel like you need to say it out loud.
Yeah. I think one thing you need to know about Palestine is that Israel can unalive a lot of Palestinian people, but they cannot unalive the will to survive, the will for freedom, the love for freedom. They cannot unalive that one. There was in front of Nasser Hospital. There is this janazah prayers every day, every hour. The imam is there to say prayers for people who have been murdered by the Israeli forces. So he told us one thing. We went to talk to him. He said, your presence here, this is how amazing the Palestinian spirit is, the Sumud, right? He said, your presence here is more important and more powerful than if Egypt gave us missiles to fight the Israelis. And he says, imagine the unlikelihood of Egypt giving us even one bullet.
Yeah.
Now imagine even if they were to give us missiles to fight the enemy here that is killing our children. He said, but your presence here is more powerful than any weapon on earth because you support us. You are an activist. Please, everyone out there, this is a message from the Palestinian people. Your activism, your hard work to fight for Palestine is more important than any weapons our government can give, and more powerful.
You mentioned to me a promise you made to the kids. What was that promise?
The promise, this child said to me, I snuck out of the hospital and I went out there. And she said, Americano. Americano said, yes, Americano. Willie, I said, yes. And she says, why your government killing my family?
That's a good question.
Very good question.
How old was she, do you think?
I think she's around 9. And I said, I asked the same question. And I don't agree with it. And I said, but what I can do is that I will always remember to speak for justice. I will always remember to speak up for Palestine, for peace and love. I'll always speak for that. That's my promise. And I tell her that, there's a lot of people back home in America and around the world that are fighting for you. I just ask you the one thing, don't give up. There's a lot of activists back home who are working hard day in, day out for your freedom. And we will keep fighting. And we will not stop. That was my promise. And that's why I'm talking. I want to share her story. That I told her I will not stop and will not stop.
Well, good. It's a good promise. I'm glad you agreed to come on and share your story with us and get a little bit more light, because I know everybody's experiences is different.
Yeah.
And they're all equally important. So we need to share as much as we can.
Yeah.
And for our little time together, I'm sure we won't hit everything, so maybe we'll do it again if we have time.
Yes.
But I want to go back. You said you had to leave and you went to the other hospital. Can you talk about the drive up there and that process?
Yes, we were going to the North Gaza, to Indonesian hospital. It was very difficult because there's a process that in the morning they say you are leaving at 8 in the morning. At 8 in the morning, they will say, no, you're not ready to leave yet. Then they will say you leave at 10. But anyway, day 1, they let us go. Green light number 1 is to go all the way to kind of like north of Nusrat camp. You wait there for hours. Then we waited there, we arrived there. On our way there, the destruction, left side, right side of the little pathway was totally gone. There is no Gaza anymore. And we waited for a few hours, and day 1, they told us, nope, you're not going up today. You go back to the south. So we go back to Nasr Hospital. Day 2, the same process. And then day 2, they allowed us to go up north. And so that's when we arrived at the checkpoint. I saw our silly little area where we studied the American Pier. Such a joke. I'm sorry on that. It's there, it's gone now, but some remnants where the Biden had promised to bring aid. There's some remnants still there, just abandoned. It's very sad. It looks very like we are very. We're not going there, but so we pass that area and then we go kind of north. Where there's a checkpoint. It's an active military zone, Israeli active military zone. So no pictures, nothing. I was able to sneak a couple of pictures there, but I was not supposed to. I could have done some. That was stupid, but
you did it anyways.
We do stupid things sometimes. A friend of mine, before I went to Gaza, said, "Don't do anything stupid."
You've done all types of things.
You've done all types of stupid things. Don't get out of the hospital. I did. Sorry, if that friend is watching, is listening someday, I'm sorry I did a lot of stupid things. But I wanted people, you guys, to see, you folks, to see out there, to see what happens, what's going on. But anyway, so at the checkpoint, sounds like something from a bad movie. They tell you to get out of your vehicle, and you line up. Literally, you line up behind your vehicle. Just 4 of us standing there like this. And then the drones will come. the drones will come and they zoom onto your face like this. They zoom and then go around. You can hear zzzz, they go back, they go forward. Zzzz. I don't know what they're looking at. How big is my face? I don't know. How much you have to see? But it was zzzz, and then they go around and around and then go to the next person and then the next person. And after that, you go into this tiny little room. You walk about 100 meters. This tiny little room with big cameras. They tell you somebody is talking, but you don't even know. They're probably underneath or under the Mediterranean Sea. You don't even know where they are. And so you put your camera, your passport on top of the camera, and they look at it, and then they say, okay, next person. And then when that process is done, you go back to your standing outside again in your in front of your vehicle, and then out of nowhere, you see this Israeli soldiers popping out of nowhere with their big Humvees and machine guns and coming out there, and they go around your vehicle. At that time, the vehicle has already been checked anyway by the drones, because you open all your doors. They open, they look in and out, they check everything, and then these guys come in. They kind of lead you towards this path, some corners, and then they just disappear. You don't even know where they went. They're gone. And then the driver knows, just keep going. Do not stop. Do not go left, do not go right. Keep moving. So, and then we just take off. And that is when, after we left that active military zone, we saw more and more devastation. I saw a pelvic bone of a child, just bones, on the side of the road. And I asked the driver, like, that's a child. He's like, yeah. The Israelis did not do a good job to clean it up before we got here. He said they tried to clean it off, to pick up bones that have been there for months, but they didn't do a good job apparently. So I wanted to stop. That's one thing that I think was stupid if I would done it, but if I could, I would have stopped and picked up those bones and go give them a proper burial. I would have done it, really. I would have done it, because that child should not be out there.
Yeah. So, sorry. How long was your drive from that checkpoint to where you were heading to? Were you heading to Indonesian hospital?
Yes, about an hour.
About an hour?
It usually should not be that long, but because there is no road, the road is completely destroyed. It's all bumpy and potholes all over. It takes a lot longer.
Yeah. And so, what was your first happenings when you arrived at the hospital up there?
We were invited to go in, right to work. We went to the ER. I went to the ICU to look at the ICU, and literally we just started working.
So when you say you went to go in to look at the ER and the ICU, like, how is that sectioned off?
Because there was never, after it was destroyed, we didn't have enough. The ER is very small, like this room, like maybe 20 by 20. It's very small, but I just wanted to see, like, if we have mass casualties coming in, where will the patient go? How does ICU look like? What equipment do they have? Do they have any, I just wanted to see, but they are pretty far away from each other.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the OR. I wanted to see the OR too, because our operating room, there's not a lot of operating beds. Okay. I think it used to be about 22, but I think there's only 8 that are operational now, because most of them, they don't have equipment. There's not enough doctors, surgeons. What do you do?
I know that we talked about before too, that Fridays seem to be the worst. Can you talk a little bit about why Fridays seem to be worse than, or not maybe worse, but they were just as bad, if not a little bit more bad? Can you explain that a little bit? Because I don't think that, like, a lot of Westerners understand why they would pick one day to do the most damage.
In my opinion, I think Friday is a prayer day for a lot of our Muslim brothers and sisters. And again, folks, this is not about religion, but I think the genocide Israel is trying those days to get as many people as possible to unalive them, because they start at 4 in the morning. That's when 4 or 5 in the morning. That's when Fajr start, when morning prayers begin. So for whatever reason, to me, that's personal opinion. To me, that is just an example of brutality of genocide Israel.
That they pick a specific location because they know that there will be a lot of people there
at this time
at that time frame.
Yes. One Saturday or Friday, I think it was one of the week. I think it was a Friday. They had struck a school that people were there. Over 100 people that morning. It was 4 or 5 in the morning. 100 people unalived. One strike. We had a lot of people come into our yard that morning. Most of them with missing limbs, missing brains. You just do nothing. You just pray that. Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about like any of the events that happened while you were specifically at the Indonesian hospital? It wants me to do the little thingy. Sorry, guys. It wants me to put a little puzzle piece in there. Sorry, guys. It said that we were inactive, but we are not. We are still going strong. So sorry. So I just asked while you were at the Indonesian hospital, are there any specific things that happened that was very impactful for you?
Everything is impactful.
Yes.
But most specific is just the amount of children coming in that have been unalived.
And what would you say the ratio is like for children versus adults, or versus? Because right now we know that one of the largest populations there are women and children. Women and children.
I would say 3 out of 5 of people that came in
were children.
Were children.
And what type of? I think we know what type of injuries, but can you just explain a little bit more about the type of injuries that you were seeing?
A lot of explosive injuries, a lot of gunshot wounds to the head and the chest, a lot of burn injuries after the home has been demolished by Israeli strikes. A lot of when you see a child with one single shot to the head, you know that was a kill shot. Yeah. And that was very impactful for me.
Because you can't deny that.
You can't deny it. There's no way. You cannot say, oh, that was an accident, or I don't know. There is no explanation to it. Or to the chest. Why will you shoot a child to the chest? If you didn't aim to kill them? Or why will you shoot them in the lower extremities to completely maim them? A lot of children that I met to have been paralyzed. Seen a lot of paralyzed children because they've been shot in the spinal cord. So they're completely now paralyzed.
Do you think, and I know this is probably a very dumb question, but do you think that it was done, do you think that I think it's both, that they're specifically trying to unalive them, or that they're trying to maim, or both?
Both. Yeah. Unalive them. And if their shot cannot unalive them, they are maimed.
But if they're maimed, it's more than likely because of all the other things that we've already talked about.
Correct.
That they probably won't survive anyways.
Correct. And if they survive, they'll probably be wheelchair dependent or bedridden. And the trauma of that will be immense.
Can you talk a little bit about like the pure evil of some of the things that you've seen? Because I know that we've talked about that in pretty good detail, but I don't think that a lot of people understand like the level of atrocity that it takes to do something like this. And it's not just done once or twice or maybe even a few times. This is continually done on a regular basis. So I just was hoping you could talk about like the pure intent with all of this types of killings or unalivings or maiming a little bit in more detail.
I want to go back to my first child. And I keep saying this, that I thought that to hold the brain matter of a child one time in Gaza was too many. But unfortunately, there was too many after that. And I can tell you this, only in Gaza that the world has normalized holding the brain matter of a child as a normal thing. So I think that's the difficult part. And yeah, I will go back to that child again and again and again. There is nothing worse, nothing worse than holding an alive child that I know that if I had resources, I could have helped. If I had even half of what I have here, I could have saved that child. We could have saved not just me, you know. So that is something that I will never forget.
Deep topics. So I just want to go back to like, because I know we talked about this too, and I'll go back to finishing out your story, but just to keep things moving a little bit more is, I know we talked about this earlier on too, but how has this changed you?
I'm forever changed. I've talked not only me, but all my other colleagues that have gone with me. We cannot sleep, we cannot eat. I'm walking around like I'm a walking dead. I live off of coffee to keep myself going. At least I can function a little bit, maybe half my capacity. But what has also changed, besides this sad part, is that what has changed too is that my resolve to continue the fight for freedom for Palestine. And I keep telling people, for as long as I'm alive, as long as I have breath in me, I will not stop. I will not stop. We will not stop. And all folks out there, do not stop. After World War II, we said never again. We said never again. How easy is it for us to forget? How easy is it for the world to forget that the Holocaust was the worst of the things that ever happened? But since then, how many other genocides have happened? And right now, one is happening as we speak. So I'm forever changed from both my mental health, I think, but I'll pull it off. I'm all right. But also from the resolve to make sure that we will not stop talking and advocating for Palestine.
So I'm gonna back us up a little bit. We were at Indonesian hospital. How long were you there?
I would say about almost 4 weeks.
4 weeks?
Yeah.
So that's where you spent the majority of your time?
Majority of the time. Because they told us, the last week is you're leaving tomorrow, you're not leaving. So we go back to work. You're leaving tomorrow, you're not leaving. You're going back. So I think we will get delayed, I think 6 or 7, 9 days, I think.
9 days?
Yeah. So you're not leaving, yeah. So we stayed, keep working. I was like, yeah, keep delaying me. I want to work. I don't want to leave anyway. So to me, that was good.
So like when you arrive, they give you like a time frame that you can stay, and
Yes.
you're only allowed to be there for that long.
For that long, but then also when the time comes, it depends on the Israeli forces when they want you to get out. The date changes all the time. The situation in Gaza is very fluid, changes constantly every day.
Why do you think that is?
They make it difficult for you.
Just to make your life harder?
Yeah, harder.
Or to hurt you?
Yep. To make it hard so that you don't go back. Make the process very difficult so that you are not gonna come back. You will think twice. Because and you work in healthcare. Think about this. You work in healthcare or any job you work at, folks out there, listen. You have to go back to work at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be out there all the time, right? So your time is already limited anyway to be out there. But when they make it difficult, you're gonna make sure that your life at home is difficult with your job too. So therefore, next time before you leave to go help in Gaza, you're gonna think twice. And there are some providers who could not make it. There's a provider that stayed in Jordan for 2 weeks. Every week you can go. There's only 2 days you can go in. One day you can go in. One day you can go into Gaza on a Tuesday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Only one day you can come out on a Thursday. So there's only 2 days you can go in. The other days you cannot go in or cannot come out.
So what happens if you get there before it's time to leave? They send you back?
Before when?
So like if you arrive to the checkpoint where you're supposed to leave, but it's Wednesday and not Thursday?
Oh no, you cannot even leave Amman on any end of the day. It's only Tuesday mornings and Wednesday and Thursday coming out.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you cannot make a mistake there because you get to the Karim Abu Salam and forget it. You are not gonna go anywhere. This is not like any other border I've ever seen in the world. No. So, and then at any particular moment, folks, listen to this. Any particular moment, almost over 2 million people in Gaza, right? Only 72, what I heard. Don't quote me. This is what a healthcare provider told us in Gaza. Only 72 healthcare workers from overseas at any particular moment in 2 weeks or 4 weeks at a particular moment. Nothing. No more.
Only 72 healthcare workers are allowed into Gaza at one time.
Yes. And they give you like 4 weeks or 6 weeks depending on how they delay you in and out. It give and take that time. But again, at the same time, only those people can be in and then some out. When you get out, you get replaced by some people. But then the day we were leaving, in my team, we were supposed to go 12.
Mm-hmm.
Only 4 of us made it in. The other ones got denied and went back to their countries. Like, for example, I know Gaza need a lot of plastic surgeons. A lot of children with burn injuries that need a plastic surgeon. Orthopedic surgeon. They need a lot of that, but there's none. And
So what are the hospitals like then? Because I know that, with everything going on, what does a doctor's situation look like? What are the nurses look like? I mean, how are they functioning?
The
right now?
hospitals are barely functioning. Like Nasser Hospital, it's a very big hospital. It's barely functioning. The ER is open, partially open. The ICU, I think, has only about 10 beds. This whole south, only 10 beds in the ICU. People are sleeping on the hallways. Nasser Hospital was completely, east side of Nasser Hospital is non-functional, completely destroyed. There's a little ICU and ER and partially some med-surg unit kind of thing, medical surgical unit. But people are on the hallways. It's crowded. Everybody moves into the hospital because their homes are destroyed. The schools get bombed. Everything gets bombed. So maybe hospital, but hospital gets bombed too. And at that time when I was in Gaza, the European Gaza hospital that I've been to before was also shut down by Israeli forces a month prior. Shifa Hospital doesn't exist. Kamal Adwan, which is where I went to see the malnutrition center, I've seen so many children that are so malnutritioned. They look like bones.
Let's talk about that a little bit because we haven't even touched on that. What is it like to see a child in that state?
It's horrifying. it's devastating because you know that when you're crossing into King Jordan, King Hussein bridge, you see so many 8 trucks on the other side of Jordan, miles waiting to go into Gaza, but they cannot go in. But then you go into Gaza, I get there, I see children malnutrition. While I knew that I seen trucks that are trying to come in, they cannot come in. It's unimaginable.
So I want to talk about how malnutrition happens a little bit, because I think as Westerners, we see these kids on TV and you're like, oh, how long can that really last, or how long does it take? So with everything that's going on there, they haven't been bombed, they haven't been whatever, but they're losing body weight, they're losing fat, they're going through the processes of malnutrition. How long does it take a child to begin the process until the point of when they're no longer viable? And I know it can be different for every person.
Every person, but I don't have statistics exactly, but it's difficult to gauge. As you said, it's every child is different. Their body weight, what type of food they were eating prior, and their body weight before they arrived. But once they get malnutrition and dehydration, the death is pretty quick. Death is pretty. They end alive pretty quick, because when you don't have electrolytes, water in your system, no any nutritious food in your system, especially for children where their organs are not well developed, it goes pretty fast. I've seen children who are not even able. They're so hungry they're not even able to cry. Mm-hmm. They're so hungry, and they cannot even order a cry. You just wanna.
So did you see many patients that were being brought in because of malnutrition, or was that something you saw when you were out and about?
You see them coming to the ER, and you know that this person, you look at their labs when they draw, it's you just know that it's very, their malnutrition, the lab values are pretty off, but also you see, you see them coming in, they look very hungry, but. We went to a hospital, tiny little malnutrition center, to look at it. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
And what is, if they are able to receive care and to, rehabilitate, what does that process look like for most of the children who are able to escape that, if that's possible?
The process to come to the U.S.?
No. I meant so say they're suffering from malnutrition now, but they're able to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
What does that process look like for them? Like, does it stunt their
everything? It stunts their growth. It stunts their mental capabilities. It stunts their mental growth, physical growth. Most of these children will end up having some kind of complications later in life, in terms of their cognitive abilities. That's the unfortunate part. So what they're doing, the Israelis doing, is that if these children that are malnutrition survive, their life will be very difficult cognitively.
So it's another way of.
It's another ethnic cleansing, yes. Another form of ethnic cleansing, another form of genocide, or G-side, right?
Yes.
Because. Yeah, that's how it's gonna work, and that's the intention, for sure. Yeah, it's horrific.
So I'm gonna kind of switch directions a little bit. Did you face any direct threats or dangers while you were in Gaza, specifically to yourself, your person?
Oh yeah, I mean every day you're there. You risk your life, and one day in specific. I mean every day there's something happening, but one day in specific, they had bombed about 300 meters from the hospital. They said that this is probably 5,000 to 2,000 pound explosion bomb. Literally, the whole hospital wall shook, and I thought the walls were coming down. And that was the day that majority of people who came into the ER, we run right after that. We hear this, you just know, you just run into the ER right away. A lot of people were unalived, and this is the problem. This is what you will end up seeing too. A lot of children, because their organs are not well developed yet. When that kind of explosion happens, that kind of big bomb, sometimes you don't see a lot of physical external injuries. They have been ruptured from the inside.
And because there's no medical equipment to check for that, you can't even properly know what's going on.
Yeah, you see like bleeding from the ears or from the nose, and then it's like the inside are crushed forever. That's it. And yeah, so that particular day was very, very surreal. But again, every day there's something similar. But that day I thought it was because it was too close.
Yeah. And
I was outside the next day. I was outside. I wanted to see these kids. I had a couple of chocolates left. I was giving chocolates, and there was a big explosion. And the kids, I jumped up. I was pretty scared, and the kids said, "Oh, don't worry, it's not close." I said, "So how close do you think?" "Oh, maybe 2 kilometers." I said, 2 kilometers is too far from you? We have conditioned children in Gaza to think that bombs being dropped 2 kilometers from their homes, from their tents, is too far. It's too far. When something drops in here, here at home, I jump up, and it's just some silly that drop. And I said, "You think that 2 kilometers is far?" "Oh yeah, you're fine. Give us chocolate."
I mean, that's not funny. It's not funny. I just think kids wanting chocolate is the greatest thing ever.
Because I haven't had it in 9 months.
Yes.
Yeah, 10 months.
So how many chocolates did you take?
I took quite a few.
And what kind?
I was supposed to take a lot of my food, but I didn't. I ended up carrying more of chocolate than the food that I was supposed to eat, and I ran out of food. But you're in Palestine. Palestinians will take care of you. They will share with you. I shouldn't have depended on it, but they will share with you. Sometimes I would send it to my friends back home here in the US. I'm like, "Should I eat this food?" But I'm really hungry, but I don't know. I feel bad. But I took a lot of chocolates. I went to Walmart. I got this big bags, and I spread them around because I said I had some stuff. I said if they don't allow me with one bag, maybe this bag will go in, and some on my backpack. So in my backpack, I took them off from the pocket. So I spread them around all over. They melted because it was so hot in there, but there's no AC. But the kids don't care. It's chocolate, right?
They just want their chocolate.
It's chocolate. And I spread them around all over my bags so that they can get in.
So I know I just want to talk about your bag situation because I think it's very important for when you were leaving. When you arrived, how many bags did you have, or how many did you take with you?
I took two. So to fly out of the U.S., you have to have 23 kilograms, or which is 50-some pounds, which, and so but then once I got to Amman, to Jordan, I went to buy my own other things, so that because going into Palestine, it's not an airport, so they will not weigh it as much. It's not weight is not as an issue. So that's where I bought most of my chocolate and most of the in some of those. I also, a friend of mine dropped off the liquid IV bags from Walmart, because I thought, if I got sick. All of us got sick there. So that's one thing you have to check with you for your water to drink, malnutrition, dehydration. Excuse me, folks.
So when you were leaving, and we'll go back to this a little bit more later, but when you were leaving, you mentioned that you pretty much left with nothing that you took with you. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think that that's important.
People, when they were told to evacuate in Gaza, people don't have time to take anything 90% of the time. And after many times you have moved, this is a year now, since this G-side has began. You've moved so many times that they don't have enough, they don't have anything left anyway. So I left everything. My jeans, my scrubs, my stethoscope, socks. Unfortunately, guys, I have to say this, folks, even underwear.
Yeah.
Say, hey, bro, I know you've never asked this, but it's all clean, hand washed. Oh, bro, hey, don't worry about it. Thank you. You know, because people don't have anything left.
Didn't you say you traded shoes?
Oh yeah, all my shoes. I came home with flip flops. But I had some that I didn't. I had 2 pairs of shoes, but there's one that I brought in back because I didn't want to leave it in Gaza because they were all old anyway. And they were almost 4 years old. But those ones are the ones that I wore most of the time in the ER, and they're very bloody. They are in the garage right now. There's too much blood in them. And to me, I thought this will always remind me of the time when humanity had failed. So I brought those in with me. But the rest, I had taken some shoes, some really good shoes too with me. Before I went there, our doctor there asked me to bring some shoes from here. I got him good shoes and he's very happy. I left him my stethoscope. Literally all the scraps. So any healthcare worker out there, if you ever going to Gaza, if you are healthcare provider, even if you're not a healthcare and you know somebody is going, please send some send scrubs at Walmart. They're pretty cheap. Healthcare workers don't have anything of that. Water filters. It's very important. Because the water is contaminated. So make sure that you donate those as well.
Okay.
And SIM cards.
SIM cards, yes.
Yes, SIM cards and water filters.
So before we continue, I know I was asked to mention something about. So we are in conjunction with the Nebraskans for Palestine, and they're getting ready to have 1 year of G-side. How do I say that? Not celebration, not a celebration week. Of remembrance. 1 week of remembrance starting October 7th. And if you would like, please make sure that you are following them. Nebraskans for Palestine is in here, and I believe they just made a comment. And if you also follow them there and on their Instagram page, you'll see all of the dates listed in a post of things that they'll be doing during the week of October 7th. So please make sure that you see them there. And she just said, hey, so if you see that little post, make sure that you're following them. They post all the information of what's going on in Nebraska, where we are from right now. So keep that in mind. And then also you talked about Heal Palestine. Can you talk a little bit more about Heal Palestine since they were able to join us tonight?
Yes, we were supposed to be joined by Heal Palestine, but unfortunately some flight got canceled. But Heal Palestine is an organization that was started by a gentleman, a good friend of ours here, Steve Sosaby. Sosaby has been working in Gaza for over 30 years, in Palestine and Gaza for sure, over 30 years. So Heal Palestine is is a non-for-profit organization that helps with medical supplies. The other day, a couple of days ago, I saw them delivering. I saw a video from that they delivered food in the North Gaza and water and medical supplies. So it's really important that it's a very important and dear organization in my heart and in the heart of the Palestinian Nebraskans for Palestine. They do evacuation of children that have been injured in Gaza. They do. It's basically one of, I cannot say good enough about Heal Palestine.
So make sure that you're following them if you're not. It's heal.palestine. And I will post that in a little bit here as well too. But that is another organization that is trying to help things going on in Gaza. And there's never too many that we can all follow. And make sure that you're following Nebraskans for Palestine as well too.
And if you if you follow Heal Palestine on social media, you will always see them bringing children into the U.S. There's another young little guy just arrived in Dallas yesterday, I think, and they have a lot of events coming up with Makamo. Was just with them a week ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so just look them up, and if there's a child is coming sitting near you, please welcome them at the airport. If you get a chance, see some, you will see what the G side has done to these kids, but their spirit is still so strong and beautiful. So, and then we are also hoping that Heal Palestine will work with us here in Nebraska to bring a child, if we can get a collaboration with hospitals here, and they can treat those children that have been injured.
Yes. So that hopefully that will happen very soon. So, going back a little bit, because I keep going back, we didn't talk about your leaving of Gaza. Can you tell us a little bit about, we talked about how you got to leave, but can you talk about your last day, what it was like before you left?
That morning there was a mass casualty. We were supposed to leave. We were waiting in our room, just trying to get out, but we jumped in. We jumped into running to the ER. We helped. We left that morning. We were supposed to leave that morning, but then they delayed us. The Israeli army delayed us, and then we left that afternoon. It was a very difficult day for me personally, and the four of us. I saw grown men crying. This is why I was crying. I looked around those children that we have seen over and over again that, I snuck out and we saw them with Ayaz giving them stickers. I knew one thing that was certain, that some of them may not be alive when I go back, and if I go back. So the realization that this may be the last time I see my folks here with me, these beautiful children, these beautiful Palestinian men and women and children, this is probably the last time. That was hard. And then another realization was this. I thought, I get to go home in the safety of my own home. But I'm leaving them here in the middle of a G-side. That still haunts me to this day. That killed my spirit. I get to go home to the safety of my home. But I look around, these beautiful people surrounded with all the destruction. You can hear from a short distance explosions. And thinking, I get to go home, but they're here. And this may be, some of them, this may be the last time I will ever see them again. It's hard to think about it still.
I understand.
Yeah.
So.
Gosh, I got vulnerable there a little bit. Sorry.
That's okay. It's good to be vulnerable every once in a while.
Yeah.
It shows your humanity. It's good. It's good. So you had talked to me about the process of leaving. And there's one particular spot that I'm talking about where you're talking about a bridge and crossing that. Mm-hmm. And I was hoping that you could walk us through that time frame and what all took place with that.
So as I said earlier, we were supposed to leave early in the morning, around 7, 8, but then we got delayed. The Israeli forces said, you're not leaving yet. Then we ended up leaving at 4:30, and then, but they told us that you were supposed to leave, you have to be getting out of North Gaza by 6 p.m. So we drive from Indonesian hospital, we get to this this spot, like before you cross into the active military zone, you stop, you get a second green light that you can go and you can continue with the drive. We sat there for about 2 hours again. So when you were leaving there, the Mediterranean Sea was on your right, and then the destruction buildings that are half, everything is down is on your right, on your left. So we sat there for a little bit, a long time. And then finally they allow us. So now we get into the same process, like the drones, Israeli soldiers come in with their big Humvees and machine guns, surrounded us. They commanded Ted, put your passports there on the ground, put your passport there. You look, they go, and as they're going into to check your passport, he's pointing a gun at you. Like, I don't have anything. All I had is my passport. You don't have to be looking at me as you're going to grab a passport. I don't know. We don't have weapons. I mean, what are we gonna do? So anyway, they look at your passport, and then the same process. So now fast forward, they told us that you keep going. Drive closest to the sea. There's a path closest to the sea. Don't go right, don't go left. If you do that, you will be bombed. Guarantee it. And it says, go over the bridge. Say, okay. And our driver is predominantly Arabic speaking, so we had to make sure that he understood the instructions from that commander. We said, can we call somebody in Jordan to translate, to make sure that he understood? Yes, we call this guy in Jordan. And guy translated, and driver says, yes, khalas, we got it, I got it now, let's go. So we get into the bridge. The driver, when we get close to the bridge, the driver says, he kind of took a little left. He was going to go around the bridge. He's like, I don't trust that. He said, I don't trust that guy. I don't think this bridge works. We said, no, we Americans, we are freaking out. Like, no, you have to go over the bridge. He says, closest to the Mediterranean Sea and over the bridge. The driver's like, we were yelling at the driver. The driver's like, okay, I'll go over the bridge. So we go about 5-10 minutes into the bridge. The driver slows down. He looks like, you see, I told you, the bridge has been destroyed.
So how much of the bridge was destroyed?
I'm not sure how far that I think, of course we couldn't pass. So the driver says, we go back. So we stop, we reverse in the middle of the night on the bridge, while they had told us, the commander had told us, if you stop, you'll be bombed. If you go left or right, you'll be bombed. And he said very clearly, he said, I will be the last Israeli soldier that you will ever talk to. Because the other ones out there, the soldiers are in the field, they won't ask you questions, they will just bomb you. I was like, brothers, spread around the bus. If they bomb the bus, maybe one of us, if you're in the front, if they bomb the front or the back, whatever section, maybe one of us will survive. And please tell our story so everybody's spread around the bus. So we spread around and so we reverse. The driver is like, Ya Rab, meaning like, my Lord, right? Oh my God. He's driving, he's reversing on the bridge. And then we get to the end finally. And then we said, okay, so we're gonna turn left on the bridge because the bridge is destroyed. So, and even though they told us that if you go left, you'll be bombed. No other option. Because if you go right, you're gonna end up in the Mediterranean Sea. In the sea. I mean, like, you gotta go. So like, if we get, I say, guys, it's because sometimes you can see the lights of a drone out there. It's like, oh, if that's it, it is what it is. So we turn left on that bridge. And the tires are rotating. Sometimes they get stuck. You know, the driver says, Ya Rab, Ya Allah. And man, we kept going and going and going. And the commander had said, the Israeli army had said, that he says, remember, you're going through Khan Yunis, and there's fighting going on. Do not stop in Khan Yunis. Nowhere. Like, okay, well, I really thought that was the end for us. I thought that was the end for us.
So I just want to talk about this because I think it's very telling about the soldiers there. Not only did they tell you to go a specific path, right? They told you not to veer off that path or you would be hurt, unalived. But they already knew what the situation with that bridge was.
Correct.
So the whole reason for sending you through the bridge is for what? Psychological torture, to make you panic, to make you, or maybe you just didn't see it because it was dark out and you go over the edge. Like what do you think the purpose of that was? Just to torment you?
I think all the above. Torment, or maybe, if the driver didn't see and ended over the bridge, he'll be dead.
I just think that's so telling because a lot of people want to sit here and say that, they're an army, they're not evil, which we already know from what has happened and what has gone on during this whole G side. But I really want to stress the point that, this commander, he knew what was going on.
Oh yeah,
he knew what the situation of that bridge was.
That was his area. He is a commander of the area. He knows. So why would you say to go to cross the bridge?
And he also knew that you were medical aid workers who were there. You were not.
Oh yeah.
You weren't doing anything other than trying to save people.
Yeah.
And that's what they do.
Mm-hmm. And another aspect too that I know for sure, this is my personal opinion, but I almost guarantee you it's true, is because if we stopped, completely stopped, or we got stuck there and they unalived us, you know what would happen? That would be the reason to shut down the humanitarian corridor to the north. They will say because these humanitarians, that when they go north, they don't follow instructions. So
they can shut it down.
They can shut it down. So it's a good excuse. Other organizations are going to say, we cannot send our people up north. Because there's nobody going north. No one, very few organizations can go north. So that would be a good reason for G-side and ethnic cleansing to continue, because the organizations here will not go, because if they go north, they get unalived.
That's sick. So, we'll probably take some questions here in a few moments, so make sure that you have those ready if you're watching. But before we switch over a little bit, I did have a couple of more reflection type questions that I wanted to ask you, just to get your opinion and see what you think will help the best, kind of. So what do you believe the international community can do better to help those affected in Gaza right now?
Support organizations that are on the ground, like Heal Palestine. Stop sending weapons.
Yes.
Especially the Western government. Stop. This is enough. Too much has been going on.
Just the other day we sent $8.7 billion just a couple days ago.
Yep. You cannot say we're advocating for ceasefire while you're sending bombs. No.
You can't.
It just that thing just blows my mind. You cannot say that. So how will it? You as an individual out there, how can you help? Participate in protests. Write letters to your politicians. Give to if you have skip the coffee that you buy at your favorite coffee shop for 1 week. Send that money to an organization that will buy water filters and all those little bottles that you can buy at a grocery store, so that you can send it to children, they can filter their water. Stuff like that,
Okay. So what message would you want to share with people who are unaware or misinformed about the situation in Gaza?
Open your heart. Open your soul. Read. It's not that hard. It's out there. The truth is out there. The truth shall set you free. It's all the information you need is out there to know what is happening. So please read, participate, open your heart, open your mind, and open your soul. Death, unaliving children anywhere is wrong. It's that simple.
So I know that this is more of like a far off kind of question, but how long do you think this will continue? What are your thoughts on that?
This will continue as long as we give weapons to Israel. When we stop, we will stop. This will stop. So there's people in Washington who know this exactly what will happen if they will stop to send those weapons. Because Israel will not keep doing this if they don't have the billions of dollars we send them with weapons. So it will stop when we stop to give them money. And it's your taxpayers. It's your money. It's your dollars that you work hard for. We're all guilty. I'm guilty. I don't pick up extra shifts anymore because I feel like if I pick up extra shift at work, I'm just contributing because they're going to take more out of my taxes anyway.
Yeah.
I'm contributing to the G side anymore and getting more. So why? There's no point.